Can anyone hear that? Can anyone hear that? It's a standard sound on Apple, yeah. All right. Greetings, everyone. Oh, this is great. Before I turn over the start of the program to the MC, I want to thank everyone for being here. Notice that at both ends there's a screen, if you can't see up this way, where everything is being projected. A couple of just minor housekeeping items. One is if you would just do us the favor of silencing your phones. This event will be recorded. It would be nice just to have it without other than the spontaneous applause and so forth. That would be great. By the way, does anyone know the name of this building that we can see out here with the lights? Who said that? House of? Custom House. All right, it is Custom House. What a great view we have here. What was the other thing I was supposed to say, Mrs. MC? I did? Okay, all right. Well, very good. We're going to start our award program. I'm going to turn it over now to Senator Harcina Tate, and she will guide you through the program. She'll reference you to page 6 of the booklets on your tables.
Good evening, everyone. As AV said, I am Georgia State Senator Harcina Tate, and I am absolutely thrilled to be your MC tonight for this Continuing Care Hall of Fame inaugural event. I hope that all of you have enjoyed the evening thus far. Isn't this an absolutely beautiful place we're in this evening? The original Harvard Club, which I think some of you went to tonight, is over a century old. And on its second year of being there, some of their members got together and decided they wanted to provide scholarships for some local Boston high school students, $200 scholarships, which of course doesn't go very far now. But they've kept that tradition going on, and they provide some funding today to help young people still go to Harvard. So this is a wonderful place that we're in this evening. We are here tonight because a group of senior living colleagues wish to preserve the history of the CCRC, and as you heard today, potentially rebranded as Life Planned Communities, and CCAH Industries. During conversations at last year's Leading Age annual meeting, a few of those individuals who have participated in the industry for 30 years or more realized that people who have joined the industry since 2000 might not know about the trailblazers for the CCRCs and CCAHs, people and organizations that built this industry. They felt that there should be documented sources for history, an understanding of where this industry came from to make it what it is today and what it will evolve into in the future. As a result of these conversations, the Continuing Care Hall of Fame was launched. Tonight's event is the result of planning that started 8 months ago. Rather than wait on forming an industry-wide group, one colleague decided to form a small planning group and just do it. With tonight's event as a result, the induction of the first 2 charter members on November 1st of this year, 2015, into the Continuing Care Hall of Fame. I want to conclude my introductory remarks by reading the Continuing Care Hall of Fame mission statement. And it says, to recognize and honor individuals and organizations that have made significant and innovative contributions to the development of the continuing care retirement communities and continuing care at home programs. As it's already been mentioned, the program will continue, and you can follow along on page 6 of your program. We will now begin our formal program with a viewing of a video prepared by Larry Minix, who is the retiring president and CEO of Leading Age, and he will provide opening congratulations to our honorees.
Hello, this is Larry Minnick, President of Leading Age. AV, thank you for inviting me to this inaugural Hall of Fame event. What a great idea. You are to be commended for it. And the two initial honorees, the ones that opened the door to the Hall of Fame, couldn't have two more important honorees than Don Moon and the late Lloyd Lewis. Great selection. I don't know who's responsible for that, AV, but these are two men who truly are virtually without peer. And what do we mean by that? It's rare in any profession where an individual has made a singular contribution to transforming the way a particular business or sector conducts its affairs. Both these men did exactly that. Lloyd, of course, for his work with the restraint-free environment, and Don, of course, for the whole movement of aging in place and life care at home. Both of these men also were instrumental in establishing the fact that standards were needed for the continuing care retirement phenomenon that was emerging, whereby we could take responsibility for our own behavior. So jointly, they helped establish the CCAC, the Continuing Care Accreditation Commission, which later became part of CARF. They shared that parentage of that important movement together. Among the founders and leaders of CCRC, which we believe are a concept whose time has come and just beginning to come into its own as a well-known approach to life planning in the later years. But both men now should be remembered in this Hall of Fame, and as you move forward, AV, with the selection of future recipients, the gold standard will be those people who did something to actually transform a particular sector. Don, we understand, lives in one of the communities where he was a CEO, Folkways, and you can take pride in the fact that the CCRC at Home movement was founded in your brain and as your idea. If Lloyd were here today, he would have fun with this, but he was a one-of-a-kind personality. Reading some of the nominations for Lloyd, the effect he had on the lives of individuals for whom he was a mentor is amusing and yet very moving and poignant. Lloyd had many disciples in our field, and he is remembered and missed to this day. So congratulations to all present. You represent two great organizations whose culture has been, is, and will continue to be that of innovation. God bless you in your work. I'm sorry I could not be there personally, but you couldn't inaugurate the Hall of Fame with two more important leaders in our field over the last 50 years. Thank you.
We certainly want to thank Larry for taking the time out of his very busy schedule to provide his congratulations to the honorees and their families. Our first presenter of the evening is Ms. Barbara W. Thomas. She is the CEO for Kendall at Oberlin. Ms. Thomas met Lloyd Lewis doing her first assignment as a surveyor for CCAC, and at that time she was totally unfamiliar with his founding role in the Accreditation Commission. It was during the occasion of her first site visit to Kendall Crosslands that multiple doors of opportunities opened. Those opportunities continue to inspire Barbara today in seeking a better way to serve the aging. She attributes Lloyd's philosophies and voice as one of the most significant influences in her work in senior living during the past 40 years. In 1992, She was hired by Lloyd Lewis to open Kendall at Oberlin, a greenfield CCRC. In some ways, joining the Oberlin project before there was even a spade in the ground or financing was an act of faith. But at no time did she doubt its solid pathways, recognizing Lloyd's influence and visionary leadership. Barbara, who also serves as CEO for Kendall Northern Ohio, believes Lloyd would be especially pleased to know his legacy motivated and inspired her to expand well beyond Oberlin's bricks and mortar by bringing Kendall at Home into being today. Further, she has forged partnerships with Oberlin College and the City of Oberlin to distinguish Kendall as a nationally recognized intergenerational program of distinction and the recipient of the Washington-based Generations United 2013 Shared Site Award. Barbara received an executive MBA from Baldwin Wallace University and holds a bachelor's degree from Kent State University and is a licensed nursing home administrator. Her volunteerism in the field and in the larger community is extensive, with her serving on many local and national boards, including being past chair and other officer roles for Ohio's Leading Age, and as a past officer and board member for Leading Age Washington. Please help me welcome Ms. Barbara Thomas.
I could have cut that down to 3 sentences, but thank you. Lori, I don't know if you're going to join me at this point. We'd love to have you come up. Lori is the daughter of Lloyd Lewis. I think it would be nice for you to stand here and have people acknowledge that we'd love nothing better than to have Lloyd here, but we are so delighted you could be with us. So there is no doubt, Lori, that you and the many friends present tonight would love nothing more than to have your dad with us, Lloyd Lewis, to present among other inaugural events. This is something probably would have been one of the greatest in his life, capturing his whole, really, career and tribute in the field of aging. His legacy is rich and cannot be attributed to one single achievement, but instead are numerous and well documented in the wonderful letters, as you will find in this booklet that's been created for this evening. He's contributed a lasting impact on thousands of older adults who reside not only in retirement communities, but wherever they choose to call home. And for creating better workplaces for those who give of themselves every day, particularly those who are more frail and cannot care for themselves. Lloyd especially had an influence in mentoring young professionals, many of whom are present tonight, albeit a little older, and those who could not be here, who hold his memory in high esteem, and who stayed in this field because of his values, because of his vision, because of his ideals, and that he shaped really going back 50 years. I suspect if Lloyd was here tonight, he might be drumming his fingers on the dining table and saying to this room full of people, enough of this. You have work to do. He would remind us that there continues to be new challenges to overcome and that can ensure a better way to age for the tsunami of older adults that are on our horizon. He would point out that his real legacy is the generation of prepared leaders, many of whom are here, who are ready to tackle the problems that seem the most impossible, the ones that are life-changing and society-changing. That's where he would focus our attention. And lastly, I might add that it's likely that your dad's achievements did not come without sacrifice to the time spent with you, your brother Paul, and your mom, Eliza. So I hope tonight that you will feel the love, the admiration, and the gratitude of all those here, lucky to be in attendance, but those that could not be with us but would want to be, to recognize him. And AV, I can only say an extra special thanks to you for your vision, your generosity to bring this about and allow us to have this memory. So we have both the honor and the book that I think will be memories forever for you and your family.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Should we put it back up? Okay.
Wow. What a great occasion. On behalf of my father, Lloyd Lewis, thank you. Thank you to AV Powell and to all of your very able associates. Thank you to Barbara Thomas, and thank you to all of you who've worked so hard to make this Continuing Care Hall of Fame a reality. My father he'd be very pleased. He'd be thrilled. He loved his work in continuing care, and he loved being recognized for his work in continuing care. Through his work, my father found, as my mother puts it, the reason why he was born. I remember when I was a young teenager going to a picnic with my father on this beautiful farm that was shortly to be Kendall. He was so excited. He was saying, the center's going to be here, we're going to have apartments here, and best of all, most exciting of all, we're going to have an on-site wastewater treatment facility down here. He was leading edge in the ecology movement. My father had no difficulty with the vision thing. He had a very strong vision. And being told that something was impossible in no way deterred him. In fact, it probably encouraged him. People would say, well, we have to restrain people. We have to keep them in the beds and in their chairs. Otherwise they'll fall. It's too risky. No, he said, we can be more creative than that. We can find a better way. People said, they're going to regulate us. This is terrible. We have to fight it. No, he said, they are going to regulate us. They are, it's going to happen. And they should regulate us. The thing to do is to get in on the ground floor and make sure that the regulations are relevant and effective. He had a very strong vision. And I know that many of you here today share that vision. You're carrying it forward. And as someone who one day, not too far from now, is going to be in need of your services, I am grateful for your vision. I'm grateful for your work. So thank you so much for this honor to my father, and thank you for all your work. Thank you.
Once again, congratulations to the Lloyd Lewis family, with Mr. Lewis as our first inductee to the Continuing Care Hall of Fame. Our second presenter is Carol A. Barber, CEO of Friends Life Care Partners. Carol was hired by Don Moon in 1986 to serve as Vice President of Project Management for FRC Management. This is a subsidiary of the Folkways Retirement Community that was responsible for the development of the Continuing Care at Home business model. She was part of the team that designed and launched Friends Life Care at Home and served as its first chief operating officer. She succeeded Don as president of Friends Life Care at Home when he retired in 1991. Carol is tremendously grateful to Don for the opportunities that he provided early in her career. Carol has worked hard over the years to continue Don's legacy Under her leadership, Friends Life Care has grown to a membership of over 2,500 individuals. The company was the recipient of the Leading Age Innovation in Care and Service Award in 2013 for its Vitality, Independence, Growth, Resilience initiative. Today, Carol serves as CEO of the parent corporation Friends Life Care Partners. In addition to Friends Life Care Partners owns Induction Associates, a guardianship and care management company. Also, Caring Friends Home Care, a Pennsylvania licensed home care organization, and Friends Life Care Consultants, Inc., the consulting services divisions of Friends Life Care. Carol earned her master's degree in business administration from Temple University. She also holds a bachelor's degree of music therapy and worked as a music therapist for several years before returning to graduate school. She is a frequent speaker and writer on the topic of continuing care at home. On a personal note, as a volunteer co-leader, as in the term co can ever be applied to anything AV does, as part of the planning team for tonight's program in this venue, if you would think this program is well done, then you should give the kudos to Carol and her team. Please help me welcome Carol Barber as our next presenter.
Those kudos really do go to AV for all the planning here tonight. This room is full of senior and C-suite executives in the long-term care industry, strategists, innovators, decision makers, and leaders. But how many of you can say that you are responsible for the creation of a whole new segment in the long-term care industry? There's only one hand that should go up, and that's our second inductee into the Continuing Care Hall of Fame, Donald Moon. It all started with a seemingly simple question when Don wanted to know, how can we bring the promises of a CCRC to people in their own homes? And remember, this was in the 1980s, way before anybody was talking about home and community-based services, when nobody was really paying attention to some of the research that people really wanted to remain in their own homes. He was way, way ahead of his time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the growth of continuing care at home because we have these beautiful commemorative brochures on the table that will talk about the research and the development of continuing care at home and how it was shaped throughout the future, as well as the replication of that model over 25 times in the last few years. But there are a couple of things in that are not in that brochure that I'd like to share with everyone tonight. We all know that Ziegler maintains lots of data and does research on the long-term care industry. And one of the lists that they publish each year is the list of the largest single-site CCRCs in the nation. Many of you know that continuing care at home falls under the same regulatory umbrella as CCRCs. And indeed, Friends Life Care, the organization that Don founded, is licensed as a CCRC in Pennsylvania. If we count the number of households that are enrolled in Friends Life Care and compare that to Ziegler's list of the largest CCRCs, are you ready for this, Don? Friends Life Care would be number 2, the second largest CCRC in the nation, only short of number 1 by 33 households. So I think that if not by the end of 2015, but by early 2016, Friends Life Care will be the largest CCRC in the nation. The other statistic that I think will blow your mind, when we first were working back in the 1980s on continuing care at home, we assumed that the utilization of nursing home and assisted living facility beds would really mirror what it was like in the campus-based CCRCs. But when we went to market, we learned early on that people said, oh no, if you said we can stay at home, we want to stay at home for the whole continuum. That's what staying at home means to us. And so we set out to figure out how can we do that and still keep people safe. Well, we figured it out, and with our 2,500 members, only 33 people are residing in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Don, you have had just an enormous number of people have benefited from the work that you did, from this business model that you created. And that, in addition to the 25 additional sites that you indirectly can be responsible for, it's just a huge, huge number of people. But I think we all know that numbers only tell part of the story, but it's really the lives of the people that you've impacted that really make the difference. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories, and the first story, I'm actually going to read from my congratulatory letter to you and about the impact you have had on me. And then I have a short video clip that I want to show also before we bring you up here. So I'll start by reading from my letter. October 9th, 2015. Dear Don, I'm writing this letter to you on the 30th anniversary of the incorporation of Jean's Folkways Life Care at Home. And they said it wouldn't last. Actually, they said it couldn't be done. Continuing care at home has become a vibrant and credible segment of the long-term care industry, all because of that seemingly simple question that you asked back in 1982. I vividly recall my initial interview with you back in October 1986. I remember the questions you asked and even what I was wearing, which doesn't fit anymore. Having come from the for-profit nursing home industry, I was especially taken with your passion around the work that you were doing and the opportunity to serve people who didn't want to or couldn't afford to move to a CCRC. This emphasis on servant leadership was foreign to me based on my prior work experience. I left that interview knowing that if offered the job, I would be taking a career risk. There was no guarantee that this lofty idea was going to work, but also knowing that if offered the job, I would take it. I also recall your inviting me into your office a few weeks after I had begun work to discuss how things were going. In addition to workload, project status, etc., you inquired about my happiness quotient. That I will never forget. Employee satisfaction, let alone happiness, had not been a priority in the companies where I had worked in the past. I want you to know that that has had a tremendous impact on my leadership over the years. I was especially honored when we began discussions regarding your retirement and the succession of leadership of Friends Life Care at Home. You no doubt recall that I was pregnant with twins at the time. The fact that you didn't see my impending motherhood as an impediment to being able to take over the reins of this fledgling organization is a tribute to your open-mindedness and belief in people's ability to rise to the occasion. It has been a tremendous privilege and honor for me to continue to lead this organization over the years, and I am eternally grateful to you for giving me that opportunity. I think you would be proud of the way the continuing care at home concept has continued to evolve to meet the ever-changing needs of the marketplace. So congratulations and thank you, Don. Before inviting you up to the podium, I said I do have a video clip that I want to show, but let me tee that up first. You did hear that Friends Life Care, the organization you started, won the Leading Age Innovation in Care and Services Award in 2013. And in preparation for that, we made a video. And we're going to show a segment of that video to you. And I think it's especially fitting because the members who were interviewed in this video are second-generation members of Friends Life Care. So if we could show that video now, that would be great.
decision to become a part of Friends Life Care was something that grew out of the experience of my parents. Both of my parents wanted to become a part of Friends Life Care, to participate in an innovative and creative program that allowed them to stay in their own homes.
And the last thing we want to do is burden our kids with our health care needs.
And certainly our participation in the Vigor program has had a lasting impact and contributed to major changes in our life. One thing we've done since we've cracked 60 is we've ramped up our exercise as a result of what we learned from the program. Friends Life Care has had a dramatic effect in changing both of our lives, both personally and for me professionally. Personally, physically, our sleep, our eating habits, all of these have been affected by data and information that was shared through programs provided by Friends Life Care. So actually, Linda and I want to say thank you and congratulations to Friends Life Care for winning this well-deserved award, and we want to toast you.
Hear, hear.
Come on up.
Don't you think that's the best hire I've ever made? Carol, I guess I knew you were pregnant when I hired you, but I didn't think that would harm anything. When I first heard I was going to be in the Hall of Fame, I thought it was because of my 300 batting average on the Boston Red Sox during 1959, but two things happened. I never played for the Red Sox, and never in my life have I hit 300, so I know that can't be it. Thank you, Carol. Carol has taken on the life of Friends Life Care, and she's brought it new life, and she's brought it new hope, and all the people who are members of Friends Life Care have found a new way of life that is vibrant, that is affordable, and that brings them into new hope for living in place. I want to thank the Hall of Fame and AV Powell Associates. I used to know AV when he was Al. I know we've all gotten older, and I'm much more difficult for me to get around, but Al, even changing your name has got to be really a lot. And you married a beautiful woman, too. So I want to thank you all for inducting Lloyd and I into this, Lloyd and me, into this wonderful Hall of Fame. I knew Lloyd, worked with him, did a lot of things together, and I suppose Lloyd and I were on opposite sides of most issues. But we worked together well, and I found it greatly delightful to work with him. And I want to add my congratulations to you, because Lloyd certainly deserves being in the Hall of Fame. I also want to thank my family. They're all down here in front. Carol might as well be family. She's not. They stood behind me during these very difficult and strenuous times when I developed Life Care at Home. My wife of 56 years is Carolyn, who's down here with me. And believe me, she has been totally responsible for my well-being, and I give her all the credit. I also have with me tonight my two children, Sarah and Rich, and their children. And we are all together as a family. And they too have been very helpful to me. They had to sometimes give up teenage parties and so forth because Dad was out of town. Or Dad was too busy trying to develop something. So I know that they have contributed a great deal to me. And I give great regard and love to my daughter and my son because I think they have made me what I am. This is quite an honor for me because it was not easy. It seemed like I had more enemies than I thought I could ever develop who said it wouldn't work. And they all seemed to want to get me out of it. But I thank the three foundations, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Pew Charitable Trust, and the Commonwealth Fund, who not only funded our initial research, and especially as we worked with Brandeis University. And by the way, where's Mark? Mark Cohen. He was only 20-some years old when he started working with me, and he's bald-headed. Now, would you believe that? What a great person he was working with Stan Waller. But I thank them for their help to me as well. I also wish to thank Carol Barber. Carol has led a group of people dedicated to this concept from the very beginning. And she too has gone through all kinds of difficulty getting this started. And I appreciate that very much. She has led a group of people who not only are dedicated to the project, but who have worked hard to see that it develops. Carol told me something earlier, I hope I'm quoting you correctly, that Life Care, Friends Life Care now adds more than 200 families each year to its list of memberships. That goes beyond our wildest idea of what would happen. We just wouldn't know it would happen. The basic idea of life care at home came to me while I was the CEO of Folkways. And I'll have to admit that as I was CEO, I didn't think I could afford to live there. I just couldn't raise that much money. And with the rising costs of health care for the elderly, there were many people out there that I knew of who would have a difficult time staying in some sort of health care option that was now available. They simply could not afford it. And growing old was not an easy thing to do. The idea came to me while I was at Folkways that there ought to be some way to take certain elements out of the CCRC and still offer some of the same elements that are within it and make life comfortable, but allow people to stay in their own homes for longer periods of time, where they wanted to be anyway. And they wouldn't have to sign up for some expensive option that they would have a hard time meeting. And so I came up with what I called at first a lower cost alternative to CCRCs. It soon became obvious as we entered the research, and Mark Cohen was very involved in his original research, that maybe it wasn't a lower cost alternative in the beginning, because they also had to pay for their housing and their food and things of that nature. But that over the long run, it really was a lower cost alternative. So we started to do the research, and we did marketing studies. Of course, you have to do those for everything. And then we began to do actuarial studies because we knew this was going to be different than anything else. And we did actuarial studies, and then we added 3 years. I shouldn't say this to Al because we added 3 years to it. because we just couldn't believe them, because it was so much different than what we were experiencing at Folkways. We looked into their morbidity, into their mortality, to their economics, to where they lived. And we put all these things together, and we developed what we called life care at home. There were some people who told us that this was going to be one of the most difficult things that could happen. We had some who told us that it was impossible to do. It just wouldn't work. But it worked. And it worked very well. And I am so happy that that is the case. Because out here, there are people who never thought they would have a chance to have some retirement option available to them, which can now join a life care program. What a wonderful thing that is, that these people now are able to do that. And so, upon that realization that it really wasn't cheaper, but it was cheaper over the long haul, we renamed it. Instead of lower cost alternative, we called it Life Care at Home. And it took off and it grew. We had determined at the end of our research that we could support this plan with only 300 members. We started the marketing after we had done all of the actuarial studies and found out that we only enrolled, the first offering we made, 78 people. Now that's a very small number when you put it up next to that 300 number. And so we blindly, I think, rushed forward and started offering services. It started marketing. And it grew exponentially over the years. And we had naysayers who said, it'll never work, it'll never work. You're wasting your time. But it did work. It's worked very well. So I am proud that my name is connected with Life Care at Home, and that many seniors who have before been limited to their choices of retirement options now have had the opportunity to live life to its fullest while maintaining aging in place. The healthcare needs are systematically correlated by the plan, and the activities of daily living are sponsored by the plan and are quite available. So it is really a wonderful program, thanks to Carol and what she has done. We should all of us who are associated with Life Care at Home, be proud of this moment and know that we have been responsible for something really neat, as my children would say, and that it's something that's going to have a future to it that has transformed our possibilities of care for the aging in the United States. And the people who are now involved with that, I think, ought to be with me to accept this honor, because they have worked hard. And I want to congratulate all of you who have seen that this might be something of worth that we can do together and develop something that will bring to our nation new growth. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Mr. Moon, our second charter inductee to the Continuing Care Hall of Fame. The remainder of our program will include the introduction of our closing speaker and his remarks, and the program will be brought to a close by acknowledgments from AV Powell and myself. Our next presenter is Ms. Ann Gillespie. She is a senior living professional leader with more than 25 years of experience across the government, private and civil sectors, and is recognized for leading and growing several large-scale efforts focused on transformational change and social good. Ann worked with the United States Senate Special Committee on Aging, Leading Age, serving as a senior associate with Booz Allen Hamilton, and was the Chief Strategy Officer for Ashbury Communities. Ann Gillespie was the first director of the Continuing Care Accreditation Commission, CCAC, from 1985 to 2001. The commission is an independent accrediting body sponsored by the American Association of Homes for Aging and accredits continuing care retirement communities nationwide. After the transfer of the CCAC to CARF, Ann served with Leading Age as its Senior Vice President for Education and Leadership Development from 2002 through 2005. She is a trustee of the National Benevolent Association and has recently co-authored a book entitled Housing Options and Services for Older Adults. Ann received her undergraduate degree from Miami University of Ohio. Please help me welcome Ms. Ann Gillespie.
So that introduction was longer than the introduction I'm going to do for Jim Emerson because he told me don't take more than 2 minutes. Thank you to AV for this beautiful evening and having the idea for this Hall of Fame, and to the team who planned this wonderful event. I'm so happy, AV, that you didn't amortize the work over a reasonable amount of time, but instead pushed it through in just a few short months. And I'm sure your team really appreciated that. Congratulations to Dawn and your beautiful family, and congratulations to the Lewis family. I'm delighted to introduce our final speaker for this evening, Jim Emerson, who's going to share some thoughts about Lloyd and invite us to consider how we take the lessons that Lloyd taught all of us and apply them to the challenges that we're facing now and the opportunities that are facing our field. Now, I've been a student of leadership all of my career, and as I study the lives of leaders, I like to look for those milestone moments where divinity calls the leader to head in the direction of his or her destiny. For Jim, it was a phone call that came in 1977. The caller was a representative from Pacific Homes, asking him to come and help them through a very well-publicized bankruptcy that would prove to be a pivotal moment, not only for Pacific Homes, but for our field. Jim said yes to Pacific Homes and continues to say yes to serving troubled communities, large and small, across the country. As CEO of Westminster Communities of Florida for 28 years, Jim led the organization's growth from 4 communities to 20 through a deliberate strategy of consolidation, mergers, and acquisitions. Today, Westminster is the largest not-for-profit owner and manager of rental and continuing care communities in Florida. Since stepping down from Westminster Communities, Jim continues to serve as a consultant for operational reviews, restructuring, bankruptcies, and acquisitions for numerous not-for-profits across the country. Jim extends his expertise close to home in his community with the Central Care Mission, which is a residential community for men recovering from addiction, and Women and Children, which is a not-for-profit that provides resources to families as they go through tough times. As well as on the national level, he sits on the Trinity Health Board of Directors. Now, when Jim was chairing the Continuing Care Accreditation Commission, he doesn't know this, but the staff had an affectionate nickname for him, and it was Jimmy Poppins. Now, his bag was not made of carpet, but it was a big black leather bag that had looked like it had been around the world several times over. And it was magic, because any time we needed a missing detail of a policy or a decision from many prior years, Jim would reach into his bag and find just the file we were looking for. And as I thought about this introduction, it occurred to me that Jim has spent his service to the field often making magic out of difficult, complex situations, not through the kind of magic we see in movies, but a dogged determination and a magic bag of files that hold the details for the work underway. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Poppins.
Thank you, Ann. I was prepared for that. Well, the other one fell apart. It did. Sometimes I feel like I'm falling apart, you know. When I first came to Leading Age in 1976, we were really pleased, and Don, you may have been around then too. We had 350 members attend that meeting. It was in San Diego. And we were really pleased. We did back-to-back with another group so we could make certain we had 350 people. Today I was in the general session, and there must be somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000, or however many it may or may not be. And I think, wow, how many people do they represent? How many staff members? How many residents? And how many, some of them have been there and open 50 years, 100 years, 125 years. Thought about the quote that a man that I admire a great deal said at one time: never have so many owed so much to so few. And those few include Don Moon. Those few include Lloyd Lewis. Never have so many owed so much to so few. Thank you very much. I've been around a long time, and I sometimes forget that because I was at last year's meeting, and you know how long the corridors are, and I was walking facing the person way down there. The shadow looked somewhat familiar, and so he got closer, and I got closer, and finally he came up to me and says, "Jim, you're still alive." He's off my list. I was driving back from the Carolinas this last week, and I stopped in Columbia, South Carolina for a cup of coffee and a rest stop. And I looked up at the menu, and it said, small coffee, $1.09. I said, I'll take a small coffee. She said, good. She said, that'll be 43 cents. I said, ma'am, it says $1.09. She says, oh, no, you look old, so you get the best price. I don't go to that restaurant anymore either. And then on the way here, you know, you go through all the body screening and everything, and I'm ready to go through the line, and the man, stop. He says, do you have any metal body parts? So I guess the reality has set upon us. Don, we're in the same boat there, all right, and share that. You know, there are so many different kinds of halls of fame. Did a little Google search, and it's amazing how many there are. Most of them are in the field of sports. All right. Many of them are in the fields of music and the arts and movies and radio. Some of them are in business. Some of them are in medicine. I got to studying some of those and studying the situation that we're here tonight about, and the two people that have been chosen, Don and Lloyd. And what characteristics are the same? And as I looked in more and more, I really came to believe that there are three major characteristics of all of the people who are in halls of fame. In some cases, they call them walks of fame. Sometimes they call them halls or walls. But in any event, there are three characteristics. The first one is a purpose. The second one is a passion. And the third characteristic is perseverance. Purpose, passion, perseverance. And I think about Lloyd Lewis and I think about Don and what qualities they have in all of those. They exceed that. Their purpose, their mission, their vision, what they were committed to do. The passion that they did it with. Carolyn, you call it an obsession, all right? So maybe somewhere between passion and obsession, and perseverance and determination. And as you look back and as you go to any kind of hall of fame, you'll see that those same qualities exist all of there. Without those qualities, ideas fade. It's an honor to be here, and I think sets the academic favor of this event to have it at the Harvard Club, very much so. Harvard has written many books about management. Even those management books talk about purpose, passion, perseverance. There's even a book written called What They Don't Teach You at the Harvard School of Management. It's one of my favorites. Mark McCormick wrote it. He wrote another one, What They Still Don't Teach You at the Harvard School of Management. Harvard didn't apparently read the book. But you know, I got my early management training in a very similar book. When I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I still have that management book. I brought that management book with me to the meeting. I was somewhat embarrassed to bring it to the Harvard Club. So it's not in my briefcase tonight. It isn't. It's a book that was published in 1930 about a story that had been written before. And it was written, and the whole story was about teaching children. Teaching children, that's when I was 6. Teaching children the importance of optimism and positive thinking and endurance and passion and perseverance and the ability and what happens and the reward for good hard work. The book was written by a guy by the name of Waddy Piper, which was a pen name for a guy named Arnold Huntz. And you probably have read that book. It was also called a variety of other topics. One of them was called the Pony Engine. And you commonly know it as the little engine that could. And I will tell you, there are so many stories in the little engine that could about today's management, about today's honorees, about tomorrow's honorees, and the importance of having purpose and passion and perseverance. And it's a story not just about the little engine that could and his positive thing, but the other engines that are there. You know, there's a story about, we always think of the one that could, and I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could. But there are others who turned him down. Don, you've been turned down before. Lloyd was turned down many times. He was turned down by some of them because, hey, I'm too big for that. I can't be fiddled with something like that. I'm just a big freight train, you know. I take the big stuff. Or I'm too classy for that. I'm a passenger engine. Or I'm too old and I'm too tired and I just don't have the strength. Or I'm too busy and I can't do it. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? But it didn't deter you. It only really motivated you. I like what Henry Ford said. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And what a good positive thing that is. And they're still teaching it today. You see, people like Don Moon and Lloyd Lewis are leaders, visionaries, analysts, strategists, motivators. Many of us were motivated by these people. Many of the people in here you've been their mentor. Now wait a minute, if they're a mentor, what does that make us? What is Are we a mentee? Or a mentoree? Whatever it is, we're that. We could be students. We could be the proteges. If we were on NCIS, we'd be the probies. We're still out there learning. Or if we've in Kung Fu, what do they call it? We're grasshopper. But we learned. Lloyd taught me a lot. But every session with Lloyd was a seminar. I mean, whether you wanted it or not, you know that. I mean, he always had something else that he wanted to show you. But he taught me one important thing that stayed with me even today. Lloyd said there are three kinds of people. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, those who have no idea what happened. And Lloyd and Don were the people who made things happen. And they make things happen even today because what they did lives beyond them. It's like the footprints that we leave. We all leave footprints of one kind. Where will our footprints leave us? We know where Lloyd's footprints are. We know where Don's footprints are. What about our footprints? What about our paths and where we go with our paths? I think one of the nicest poems that comes to my mind describes Lloyd and describes Don. Just an excerpt from it. Written before you were born, Don, by a gentleman we all admire. It's called The Road Not Taken. Just a few words out of there. Two roads diverged in a wood. They couldn't travel both. They took the other one because it wanted where no step had trodden. We should be telling this with a sigh somewhere in ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and they took the one less traveled by. And that's made all the difference. It's made all the difference for all of us. I'd like to close with a phrase that one of the other men that I admire was on TV for many, many years, Charles Kuralt. Remember Charles Kuralt? And he had a show called On the Road. He did for 25 years. He wore out probably a half a dozen of those old clunky RVs that he drove back in that time. He said, up ahead, I can see the road is bending. I wonder what's around the bend. And I wonder what's around the bend, AV, for the Continuing Care Hall of Fame. We've got several people in this room from other fields of CCRCs, from business, from accounting, from finance, from actuaries, for all kinds of things. People who took the road less traveled by, the people who make things happen, people who have a purpose, who have a passion, who have a perseverance. Thank you.
Well, we're coming to a near end here, and I had hoped that I could button my tuxedo at this stage, but unfortunately things didn't go as well as I planned. We're going to do the acknowledgement section of the program, and I'll begin. First of all, let me thank everyone in attendance this evening. I know that many of you have several options for this first day of Leading Age, and we're very appreciative that you decided to spend your time with us. As a token of that appreciation, the name tags you have, you may keep those, wear them proudly, hopefully for the rest of the event. As well as on each of the tables, there are 3 different programs. One is the induction program itself, and then there are souvenir programs on behalf of each honoree, both Don and Lloyd. And again, let me say thank you all for showing up and being part of this. It's just a great pleasure on my part to be able to recognize you two. And by the way, in case anyone doesn't know, does anyone recognize what this award looks like? Yes, the green book. Oh, thank you, Ann. Oh, okay, Don. All right. By the way, Don and Lloyd and Jim Cater, there were 3 providers on the advisory committee for that book, that research, sponsored by the Wildwood Johnson Foundation. Don and Lloyd were 2 of the 3 members. Let me refer you to page 7 of your induction program. It has a list of many names of folks who helped us along the way. And by the way, in each of the each honoree has a book that we put together. Several folks sent in congratulatory letters. Also, if you get a chance this evening, there are several blank pages. Don will have his, Lori will have Lloyd's. You all may just stop and sign it to say that you all are here and so forth. But many other people contributed to this event. It was not the work of just a small group of people, but really a large group of contributors, including yourself. I'd like to also begin by thanking the firms associated with each honoree, Friends Life Care Partners, and Folkways for Don Moon, Kendall for their support in regard to Lloyd Lewis. Also want to express appreciation to my consulting team. And let me ask them to stand up, because they really allowed me to focus on this for the last 6 months, and in particular last month, and still doing our work. So would you all stand up? They have sponsor on their tags. Thank you, thank you. I want to say thanks to the planning team. We started back in late March to do this, and I just reached out to a couple of folks right away, a small group of about 9 of us. 4 of them were from my firm, but also we mentioned to the Friends Life Care Partners, and they volunteered lots of time and effort, including Diana Rinstra. Would she stand up? Joan Kelly Kincaid, Elise Lamara, and also from my side, Amy Lampo, Bob Goodrich, and Tondi Nunn. You stand up as well, you 3. As you can observe, there are a lot of details involved in planning this wedding, so to speak. And I have experience in having 2 out of 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters married, but I don't have to do 2 weddings, thankfully. But that's another story, how that worked out. Also, I'd like to say thanks to Ann Gillespie, who unfortunately we did not get a hold of until late, but certainly she helped us in providing some missing email contact numbers, and certainly for Winford for coming, because we didn't have your number until Ann got involved. And Winford, as you know, is a former past chair of Leading Age. Even though she's not here, you see the programs, you see the design of the award. We have a vendor back in Atlanta, her name is Jules Booker. She designed all of this, and when it comes to getting these programs right, we have at the last minute change after change after change, and she was up there all along and not, just saying, let me make the next change. It really helps us out with that. So just a big shout out to her, especially to those last 2, I call them those 8 weeks of working with me in my quest for improvements. Also, I'd like to express extreme gratitude to the 2 speakers. I think Larry's speech was just outstanding, and Jim's was right up there with it, if not exceeding it. And I really do appreciate you, Jim, for taking time to give us your inspirational thoughts. It's just really a blessing to have you here. So thank you very much. I want to express my immense gratefulness to the presenters who were on board from day one. Day one was March 23rd, 2015, when I reached out to both of them to ask them to present for this evening, and for Barbara Thomas for identifying, providing contact information on those must-include folks for the invitation, as well as reaching out to Lorraine Dissinger, if I pronounced that correctly, and providing a letter of thanks and so forth. Lorraine worked with Lloyd from the very beginning over 41 years, and it's it's amazing to have a work companion for that long. It's almost as tough as being married for that long, And that's an area I've not quite succeeded on as of yet. Don't worry. Also to Carol Barber for being my muse and the Creationist Award and the go-to person for an objective perspective to keep this event first class in spite of my crazy ideas. And you all don't want to hear some of those ideas. And lastly, I'd like to express appreciation to the mistress of the ceremony, my angel wife, Harsina Powell Tate, who graciously allowed me to miss our long-planned October trip to Taipei. We were planning to spend a week there, or like 10 days. And she did so not putting me in the doghouse for too long, even though one of her Georgia State colleagues went with her. So soon I'll be hoping to get out of the doghouse, and she is my newlywed. Thank you.
Well, I want to say really thank you to Jim Emerson, because he's really set the stage for what I am about to talk about, and that is the future steps for the Continuing Care Hall of Fame. He's told you that the people that we induct from now on are to have purpose, have perseverance, and what was that other one? Passion. The selection of the first 2 charter members was easy, but the hard part comes in sustaining the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is a Georgia corporation and approved by the IRS with a public charity status of 509A2. If you go back to the mission statement that I read at the beginning of the program in the introduction, future inductees are not just limited to staff of CCRCs and CCAHs, but can also include consultants and other industry professionals as well as organizations, as Jim mentioned to us. He was hoping that we'd say that. The Continuing Care Hall of Fame is now in the process of creating an advisory board to develop a working criteria for future nominations to be considered as eligible and requirements for approval by that advisory board to vote on those nominees. We will be reaching out to potential advisory board members, but if you have an interest in participating in any way with the Continuing Care Hall of Fame, please contact AV with the understanding, as you well know, that no commitment is implied. We look forward to the planning of the next Continuing Care Hall of Fame induction program for Sunday, October 29th of 2017 in New Orleans. And we want to thank you so much for coming tonight, and please enjoy the dessert.
The dessert, where's the dessert, Tommy? The dessert is in the Miller Peabody room. Please join us for fellowship there and to further congratulate the honorees. And then we will also be doing some pictures in the Crimson room. There are a few of you who have to do some must-have pictures, but we'll also have an opportunity for everyone to get a photograph if they like. Thank you very much. And that concludes our program.